Results weren't ideal, but welcome on into the PHNXDbacks podcast. I'm sorry, there's
I did it, but it fired.
Yeah, it didn't fire. But anyway, welcome on in. My name is Derek Montilla, formerly known as your mayor of PHNX. This guy next to me is Mr. Electric, Shawn. Jesse Friedman will be joining us from Chase Field here shortly. But in the meantime, let's talk a little bit about today's loss. The Diamondbacks come up just short again. 2 games in a row that the Diamondbacks lose to the Philadelphia Phillies by 1 run. Games that were exciting late and definitely not what we saw in game 2 drumming, but the Diamondbacks do lose 3 out of 4 at home to the Phillies, and just not a great feeling. Ryne Nelson was pretty terrible today, and the Diamondbacks starting pitching rotation is starting to look a little rough. I mean, we already had bad outings from Zach Gallen, and yesterday not the best outing from Merrill Kelly. Still, he gave you over 6 innings, and he only gave up 3 earned runs, so I'm still not mad at Kelly for that. But yeah. Nelson today, 4 innings pitched, 10 hits, 5 earned, 2 walks, 5K. I mean, if Jesse was here, he'd probably say he did get some good whiffs on the changeup at times. But if, honestly, he was throwing pretty much, wasn't effective with much. His 4-seam fastball was what he was dealing with. The changeup did look good at times, but Ryne Nelson put the bullpen, who was fairly outstanding, in quite the predicament today. I'm just glad to not see these Philadelphia Phillies anymore.
Yeah, I thought today might go a little differently because there was no JT Realmuto. Did not. But yeah, this was a very frustrating series. Every single, outside of the second game, which was a complete throwaway, they were in all of the games. If it wasn't for the error yesterday, there's a good chance. I'm not going to say they win that game because they have not been good in extras.
They've just been terrible in extra innings so far. But yeah, they definitely had a chance at winning that game. And that obviously the error causing the loss feels like it hurts more than just, you hit a home run or something. Yeah, whatever. But when you lose on that kind of play, it really sucks. But anyway, I guess the question that we're going to ask now is, do the Diamondbacks do anything with their starting rotation between now and the trade deadline? Because obviously some moves can be made. I do feel like there is, there's some things to address, and the Diamondbacks do have options, even some options that we haven't seen up here at a major league level yet this year. But do you think that we'll see the Diamondbacks maybe call up a Brandon Pfaadt, or even go to Drey Jameson as a starter between now and the trade deadline? Or do you just think they'll stick with this? Because we have a while, right? It's June 15th, trade deadline's August 1st. We don't know how soon the Diamondbacks are going to make a move, but as it stands right now, we feel like they're buyers and that they're going to be aggressive at the trade deadline based on what Mike Hazen said. So I don't know if we're going to see them do anything to address the starting rotation in the time being.
Yeah, it's tough because I think there's obviously a part of you that wants to make sure you've seen everything before you go out and make moves at the trade deadline, so you know exactly what you have. And at this point, the starting pitching is not doing its job. But on the other hand, it's like, who in the starting lineup is really doing their job? Because it's not like your aces are really getting it done either. So I don't know if it's more of you have to look at more of a big picture thing as opposed to at individuals. I mean, we saw what Pfaadt was up here, and it wasn't great. Not that he doesn't deserve a second chance at some point, but I don't know. I think they probably should do something, especially if the starting pitching just continues to be this inconsistent and this frustrating. But I am not sure that I don't think that necessarily the answer, Pfaadt is going to be the answer. I don't think that. I think it'd be more of a test as opposed to being like, okay, this is the move we have to make and we figured it out.
Right.
You try it, see if it works. I'm not confident that it would work.
You don't want to rely on Pfaadt, though, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You don't want that to be your end-all, be-all. And obviously, even if Pfaadt struggles, it's still him adjusting to a major league level. Yeah. And at one point, they still believe that this guy is going to be a quality major league starting pitcher. But we talked a lot about the Diamondbacks pursuing relief pitching, and after today, at least for the time being, I'm just being reactionary in the moment. But the bullpen was great today.
Yeah.
They went 5 innings without giving up a run. They gave up 3 hits total. Drey Jameson went 2 1/3, gave up 2 hits, no runs, striking out 3. Kyle Nelson, 2/3 of an inning, gave up 1 hit and a walk. Castro, 1 1/3 innings, 1 walk, 1 strikeout. Chafin closed things out, 2/3 of an inning, 1 strikeout. So the bullpen got the job done.
Yeah, and it's not. It was a couple of guys too that I think Dbacks fans were starting to get a little frustrated with, and they came out and turned out good outings, so specifically Castro.
Yeah, Miguel Castro, or obviously Chafin. Like, these guys have been overutilized, and I know Castro for a period of time there was pretty good, but yeah, he's had a couple of bad outings, as Chafin has, as almost everybody in the bullpen at this point has. But I feel like they're figuring out the reliable guys that they can count on, and it's working for them. Just today, as much as they tried to answer back, and they did answer back with a big home run from Ketel Marte to take the lead briefly, it just wasn't enough. Kyle Nelson, again, 5 earned runs, gave up 10 hits. Just a flat out terrible outing for him. And also a terrible outing for the 3, 4, and 5 hitters in this lineup. They were flat out awful today, going a combined 0 for 12. And that's Lourdes Gurriel Jr., who has just absolutely struggled since returning from injury. Corbin Carroll and Christian Walker. So those 3 just not getting the job done.
With 4 Ks. I didn't even realize he had
0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts today.
Yeah, and I mean,
I tried to get the hair out. I tried to get the hair going. We tried to do something. But.
And I mean, there's a couple of ways you can look at this, right? Like, you got good production from the bottom of your lineup, which is always nice to have.
They got tremendous production.
It only matters so much when the top of your lineup's not doing anything. And obviously, like, I mean, more obvious, I guess, to us than the team, but when you're putting Pavin at your starting lineup, you're basically starting your lineup with the 2-hole. Like, Pavin is not a real leadoff for a playoff for a dangerous team.
I don't understand why they continue.
Neither do I. Yeah, I
right. It's
he's betting 199.
Pavin has struggled, and he is not. I mean, he doesn't offer speed. He doesn't offer consistency with his bats. He's not even like Jake McCarthy, who we saw today once again turn an out into a triple. He turned an out into a triple. He should have been out at first base. He slides in. He beats the foot race, essentially, wins the foot race, gets on first, steals second, causes a throwing error by stealing second, gets into third. That's the kind of stuff that you need from a leadoff hitter, a guy that is going to do whatever it takes to get on base. Josh Rojas at one point was a very good leadoff hitter for this team. He was that kind of guy. Even though he still hasn't hit a home run, Josh Rojas was able to be the disruptor, as we have started calling him, and he was able to get on base and make things happen. But one thing that I don't think any Diamondbacks fans will argue with right now is that we need to see more of Gabriel Moreno at catcher. And not a 50-50 split with Carson Kelly. Yeah. That's probably not going to be the case.
Another 50-50
Torey Lovullo is going to
Herrera.
do a 50-50 split with Carson Kelly. Lovullo is going to do everything he can to try to get Kelly back on track. And that's something we talked about in the watch-along today, but it needs to be said more about baseball. Like, when these guys get injured, even when they're out for a few days, it can take a whole month for them to get back on track,
particularly at the catcher position. Like, there's a whole different aspect of that. Absolutely. Where you got to get together with your
timing, arm
your
speed,
pitchers,
all
and everything.
Sorts of stuff,
right? It's definitely an adjustment. And I think ultimately the best case scenario is that you get Carson Kelly back to what we know he can be, which is by no means he's not going to be JT Realmuto, but he can be a very good catcher. I mean, I keep joking about how he was the best player in baseball last year in the month of June.
There was a period of time where he was very good.
It was true. Like, he had an incredible month. And so we know he's capable of playing good baseball. And so I think taking the risk of playing him a bunch now, even when it might not be the best thing for the team, in the hopes that you get him back to what he can be, is a worthwhile risk.
That's the risk.
But it is a little bit of a risk. Like, you are kind of, you're selling a little bit at that catcher position, at least over these couple of games, when you have Carson Kelly there, because he's ineffective.
Well, we're going to take a look at the numbers in the series when it comes to stolen bases, but the Phillies were running all over Carson Kelly, and that's the truth. Today, they only attempted 1 stolen base, and they did successfully steal that base on Gabby Moreno. But as we were talking about, there was a lot going on, and there was a lot in between.
There's a run on
Gabby
at that point.
But he was 2 for 4 today with an RBI, and again, Carson Kelly has just looked a bit lost at the plate. And I don't know what to say other than, like, it feels like the Diamondbacks are potentially sacrificing wins to try to get these guys going. I understand what you're saying, where, yes, that is something that is worth the risk at times, especially if we can get both of our catchers, kind of catching fire a bit there and be able to give them that relief of splitting time while both of them are able to be productive. Kelly said it himself, though. He did not want to return to this team until he was right because of how well this team was playing. He didn't want to be a detriment to this team. And in all honesty, that's what is happening. And it's what he knew was going to happen, I think, in a way, because again, it takes a while for you to get back on track. So you don't want to be out there in the lineup going 0 for 4 and being part of the reason why this team doesn't win a game.
Yeah,
right? So
at that point, it's not good for anybody.
Right. It's not. It's not good for yourself and anybody. And again, you love the team in a way that you want to see them continue to succeed, and you definitely don't want to be part of the reason why they don't. But one of the guys that was the reason that they were in this game, and of course a big part of the offense today, was our King Snake, and that is Ketel Marte. He was 2 for 4 today with 3 RBI and a home run. And King Snake, our Ketel Marte is
I think the mouse died.
The mouse died on our computer, so no more graphics for the whole show.
David, you got to go run and grab a computer or a phone charger.
I was trying to buy him some time there, but Ketel Marte again looked good today. He had a scary moment where he thought he might be injured. He didn't look great. We thought we were going to get Torey Lomolo out there looking at him in the face and seeing if he was hurt. But again, great day for Ketel.
Yeah, I just feel like we can't say enough about how like refreshing it is based on this from like the Ketel we got last year.
Yeah,
and obviously he was dealing with a lot of injuries, which is why anytime you see him grimacing,
that's why we freak out. We absolutely freak out. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he you mentioned how inept the top of the lineup was. The exception is Ketel Marte, and honestly, at this point, I want Ketel leading off. I think he would be. I think he has an ability to get on base a lot, and he also has the ability to go yard and break open a game in the first at bat. That's something that Torey had mentioned.
That's why I've always liked him in the 2-hole, just to give Ketel that opportunity to have somebody on base before him and give him that opportunity to RBI. And it's not like once you get out of the first inning, it's not like any of that matters anyway. Yeah. But it's still. Like hitting leadoff, that's the one thing with Ketel is he does have the power to drive in guys. He does have that ability.
But it doesn't matter. But if that's your reason for not batting him leadoff, then you need someone who's better at getting on base in front of him. Like there's no point in doing that if you're going to put Pavin Smith there.
Even though he's hitting 306, thoughts on Corbin Carroll leading off? I mean, does that not just seem like the most natural place for him to be?
I mean, for a lot of the same reasons that Ketel, you would and would not want Ketel leading off,
right?
Like
not being able to.
If anything, it's those things to the more extreme, right? Like you don't put him an opportunity to drive runners in, which we know he's very capable of doing. He's a tremendous hitter.
306 with a 977 OPS right now.
Yeah, but you want to talk about a guy that gets on base, and when he gets on base, has the ability to wreak havoc. And honestly, you mentioned him. If we're just throwing anybody at leadoff, put leadoff Jake.
I mean, he's hitting 223 now, so he has a better batting average than Pavin Smith. There's no reason why you wouldn't swap those guys.
And that's considering how bad he did before he got sent down. Like he's been a very good hitter since he's come back.
Yeah.
And you know he's capable of bunting. You know he's capable of, again, creating havoc once you get on base. And that's what you want from a leadoff guy, is a guy that's going to make people uncomfortable as soon as the game starts, essentially. And Pavin is clearly not that right now.
Right. Yeah.
He's clearly not that. I don't think he's making anybody nervous or uncomfortable. And I think you have a number of guys in this lineup, like the 3 that we just mentioned in Ketel, Corbin, and Jake. Like any of them have an ability to kind of create chaos.
They do.
And I would rather that than. Well, I mean, really, Pavin doesn't, I think, have a place in this lineup at all right now. But if it is anywhere, it's at the bottom of the lineup.
Yeah, I agree.
But even then, it's like the bottom of the line is producing. You want to put him there and ruin that? Like that's what I'm saying. Like it's hard when he's not hitting the baseball.
Dominic Fletcher is available. There's other options. I think Dominic Canzone is another guy. We lead the league in Dominics. We talked about that yesterday, but
Kyle Lewis.
I don't know. We'll see what happens. If I was a betting man, and I am a betting man, I would put money on this team rebounding after not doing well against this Phillies team. But one way that you can be a betting person and not actually risk any money is checking out the BetMGM Swing for the Fences promotion. All you got to do is log into the BetMGM Sportsbook app on iOS or Android. Play the BetMGM MLB free-to-play game from May 27th through September 7th. Be a batter, pick an area of the strike zone, and depending on where you pick, you'll get a single, double, triple, or home run or pop out. You've never flied out?
I've never flied out. I did it again today.
We still don't believe you. We called you a liar on the show the other day, but you'll receive the prize associated with that type of hit. Prizing must be used on MLB and expires in 24 hours. Again, if you haven't signed up for the BetMGM app yet, use bonus code PHNX. There's a few different offers depending on where you live, but for our Arizona audience, you will get up to $100 in bonus bets on your first wager with BetMGM. Again, make sure you use bonus code PHNX. Check out the show notes for full details. And now listen to Shane talk about the disclaimer.
Just kidding. You're not going to, because we don't have a working mouse right now.
Oh, so we're gonna have to go. Mouse? No,
we don't have. Do we even have the old fashioned?
I don't know if we do. We have the full fashioned, old fashioned disclaimer.
I don't think we do
now. No. So we're gonna have to. We're gonna have to have.
There we go. There we go. And now listen to Shane.
Now listen to Shane talk about the disclaimer.
Disclaimer, 21 plus to wager. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. U.S. promotional offers not available in Washington, D.C., Mississippi, Nevada, New York, and Ontario. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Colorado, D.C., Illinois, Indiana, Louisiana, Maryland, Mississippi, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Wyoming. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369, New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP, Arizona. 1-800-522-4700, Kansas, Nevada. 1-800-327-5050, Massachusetts. 1-800-BETS-OFF, Iowa. 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help, Michigan.
Well, we thank those of you that have joined us today in the PHNX Sports YouTube channel. Make sure to sign up and subscribe for the channel if you haven't done so. Sign up for notifications that way you don't miss when any of the shows go live. Leave us a little thumbs up, especially with Jesse coming in here next. You know he loves that. You know he's going to love that. And if you haven't already done so, subscribe on your favorite audio podcasting app. Leave us a review. We always appreciate that feedback. And sign up today for our PHNX Diehards membership. You'll get your money back right away. How, you ask? Well, you'll get a $50 gift certificate to Mountain Mike's Pizza. You will get a free piece of merchandise from the PHNXlocker.com. You'll also get 20% off all future purchases. So grab our brand new Answer Back shirt. There you go. There's a reason right now to sign up. Get that diehard membership. You also get access to our members-only Discord. You'll get Jesse's newsletter, full count. You'll get so much more, including members-only discounts with our partners, members-only invite to events, and so much more. Grab that diehard membership today. And now joining us from some press box, or I don't even think it's a press box. Yesterday it was the visiting GM's suite, but joining us from somewhere in Chasefield, it's the one and only Thunderstick Jesse Friedman. Jesse, how are things? How's the
things? Are great. Yeah, we have luxury accommodations here in the visiting GM suite. They take good care.
Are there free hot dogs in there? I just want to know if they're free hot dogs.
No, truth be told, there's a fan and there's a monitor that's maybe 24 inches to watch the game on. Not especially large, but there is an outstanding view from here. I'm honestly kind of jealous. What we get in the press box isn't quite what we got going on here.
Yeah, not quite as nice, of course, but not a great series, not a great loss. Another close one that felt like the Diamondbacks were going to maybe come back and take it, maybe split the series. But what's the mood like with Torey Lovullo and the players there at Chase Field?
Definitely frustration. The vibes from Tuesday of flush it and move on, I think are very changed today. And maybe yesterday to some degree as well. The Diamondbacks seem pretty frustrated with this loss. And I think it comes down to the little things. That's what Torey Lovullo kind of kept coming back to in his post-game presser today. You know, if they take care of the little things in this game, maybe the outcome is different. And in this game, I think there are a few different things you can point to. There's Ryne Nelson not covering first base in what turned out to be a big inning. He was a little bit late over there. Granted, Trey Turner was running up the line, so you don't necessarily know if you'd get him anyway. But that was a mistake that certainly stood out in this game. There was also late in the game, Corbin Carroll decided to lay down a bunt. A little bit of a tricky read for Ketel Marte, who was on first base. This was in the 8th inning. But I think with a better slide, I think Ketel probably should have been safe at second base. For his body was there way sooner than his foot actually touched the base. So that's another thing, maybe could have started a big inning for the Dbacks. But yeah, ultimately, I wouldn't say, at least from my perspective, I don't really view this series as being an egregious loss or anything. I mean, at the end of the day, the Phillies had all 3 of their best pitchers going in this series, and the Diamondbacks had only 1 of their 2. So just the way that things lined up was not favorable at all coming into this series. And there's a reason the Phillies have been playing really good baseball lately. They just beat the Dodgers in a series, and I think it won 8 out of 10 entering this series as well. So they're a good team. They're a much better team than they've shown themselves to be so far this year. And the D-backs just caught them at a bad time.
That's what I keep trying to remind people, is that this team was in the World Series last year, and they started last season slow too. Like, this is a good roster with good pitchers and good batters, mainly good batters.
Might even be a better roster than last year's team that made the World Series, arguably. And yeah, I think the big thing that we talked about is the mistakes, right? Mistakes piled up in all of these games. Like, you could flush that Tuesday game, right? But when you take a look at the other losses, they were close games that the Diamondbacks made a lot of mistakes in all of these games. I said it during our watch along kind of jokingly, but it almost felt like the Diamondbacks made more mistakes in this series than they have the rest of the season. That's how it's piled up. I mean, base running errors, like you said, with Ketel. We saw the big error in extra innings yesterday, or the big mistake, and that's an interesting point, or an interesting topic people have been discussing, is that mistake and whose fault it was. I know that you were there yesterday, and I know that obviously a lot of people who played baseball and were taught baseball as like little kids have always been taught that a ball like that belongs to the outfielder. But what did you take away from Jake and his? I think he kind of owned up and took a bit of responsibility for that mistake.
Yeah, he did. It was interesting the way that things kind of evolved yesterday after the game. Torey Lovello initially said that they were both calling for it as loudly as they possibly could, but neither guy could hear each other. When we talked with Jake McCarthy after that, he said that he actually could hear Geraldo Perdomo, but that he was also calling for it, and that Perdomo couldn't hear him. I also heard, or at least if you go back and look at it, some people have told me that what you see is Jake calling for it early, but not calling for it late, which certainly would have been a mistake beyond just not being loud enough. If he actually wasn't calling for it late at all and Perdomo was, that certainly would be his fault, I guess you would say. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it was a miscommunication. It seems like if you have to put the blame on one of those two guys, it would maybe go on Jake, and he took responsibility for that after the game yesterday. But at the end of the day, it's a mistake that just can't happen, right? You cannot afford to lose a game like that in that manner. And frankly, I mean, on the whole, maybe it feels like the Diamondbacks kind of got blown out in this series, losing 3 out of 4 games. But frankly, they played 3 games that were basically 50-50 ball games, right? I mean, the Monday game that the Diamondbacks won, the Phillies were within a few feet of taking the lead there in the 9th inning against Miguel Castro. Literally within a few feet. And then the game yesterday obviously came down to that miscue, and you could make a case today that this game would have ended differently if the Diamondbacks had not made a couple of those key mistakes that they made in this series. So 3 really close games, and then obviously the clunker on Tuesday. Although we enjoyed watching Josh Rojas pitch, but outside of that, I don't think anyone wants to talk about that game anymore.
Not at all. But we do have to take a look at the numbers in this series, which definitely don't look great. So let's take a look at those. Yikes, Jesse. Yikes. Big yikes for a lot of things here.
Yeah, obviously the starting pitching ERA is what stands out the most, right? An 8.66 ERA. As I said earlier, the Diamondbacks only had one of their 2 premier starting pitchers going in this 4-game series. That meant that Zach Davies, Tommy Henry, and Ryne Nelson all had to pitch. And we've talked a lot about those 3 and how 3/5 of this Diamondbacks rotation is pretty subpar. And that very much showed itself in this series. All 3 of those guys, Tommy Henry, Zach Davies, and Ryne Nelson, they all gave up more runs than innings pitched. And those are the kinds of starts where it's really hard to win a game like that, right? If your starter goes, I think Davies, it was 3 innings, 6 runs, only 4 of them were earned on Monday. Somehow the Diamondbacks wound up winning that game. But outside of that, it's just really tough when your starting pitchers are frankly uncompetitive. And the Phillies, on the other hand, were actually pretty good. Zach Wheeler was really good. Ranger Suarez was really good. And Aaron Nola, despite a big 4-run inning at one point in this game, he was pretty solid today too.
I think the thing that is egregious here is being outdone in stolen bases, Jesse. They were running all over Carson Kelly in those games, and 8-2 in the stolen bases category very much shows what was happening in this series. The Phillies were the ones that were creating chaos on the base path.
Yeah, it was kind of like they switched roles for a series almost. Like the
Hate it.
Phillies were creating all of the chaos on the base paths. The Phillies were relatively sharp defensively in this series, whereas the Diamondbacks really made a few uncharacteristic mistakes. So yeah, I think in some ways you can feel okay moving on from this, knowing that those aren't the kinds of things that are probably going to happen all that often for this D-backs team. They are one of the best defensive teams in the league. They are one of the best base running teams in the league. They do have Gabby Moreno, who is has an incredible arm. You don't think that teams will be stealing that many bases against them in a 4-game series all that often moving forward. But of course, that goes back to Carson Kelly and Gabby Moreno and the split of playing time between those two. A lot of people were not happy to see Carson Kelly play in 3 games in this series.
Worst loss, today's loss or the extra innings loss? Obviously, both 1 run, but
I mean,
extra innings loss.
I'm saying the extra innings loss just
Yeah.
because of how egregious that one, like the Jake McCarthy situation was. Like, teams, obviously, you don't know that they win the game, but they give themselves a much better chance of winning the game if that happens. Like, that specific mistake makes that loss a lot harder to swallow.
The numbers would disagree with you, though.
Yeah,
Am I
fair.
right, Jesse? Because they have been terrible in extra innings this year.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about extra innings. The Diamondbacks this season in extra innings are 0 for 15. They do not have a base hit in 5 total innings.
So awful. 0 for 15.
Which is bad, and it's bad enough as it is. It's even worse when you factor in the fact that they start with a runner in scoring position. Like,
Correct.
they start with somebody on second base,
Yeah.
and they can't do anything.
And the thing that really gets me and Jesse going, the thing that's really frustrating to watch in the extra innings game is the lack of management by Torey Lovello to try to manufacture a run in some way. The Diamondbacks have a lot of speed on their team. They have the ability to do things that can cause the other team to make mistakes, and it doesn't feel like they lean into it enough in that particular situation. I don't know if they just clench up and get a little, nervous because the game's on the line and when we're getting into extra innings or what, but that might explain why sometimes this team has, trouble scoring late in games as well. Like, it's not just extra innings. We've seen this team struggle just scoring after the 5th inning, it feels like.
Yeah, that has been a trend as well. That's true. But yeah, I mean, I asked Torey yesterday after the game, about the struggles in extra innings. And, I mean, the D-backs have only moved a runner to third base twice in those 5 innings. So it's not just that they're getting out, but they're not productive outs. And you can score that runner from second base without necessarily getting a base hit, right? If you're even a productive ground out, you don't even have to bunt necessarily. You do sort of understand yesterday, Lourdes was the first hitter to come up in that inning. And Torey said after the game that with Lourdes up, bunting was not really an option. And you can understand that, especially with the D-backs down a run. It wasn't necessarily a time to play small ball. Ideally, you're looking for 2 runs in that situation rather than 1. But yeah, on the whole, could the Diamondbacks try to lean into the small ball aspect of this team a little bit in some of those moments? I do think if you look at the full body of work in all of the extra innings that they've played, they have not done that enough. They probably need to embrace that a little bit more. And try to get out of the rut of just not being able to get that ghost runner home from second.
Few concerns about this 4-game series. It's not just the offense. Starting pitching, you had Henry going 4 2/3 innings. You had Davies going 3 innings. Now you have Nelson going 4 innings today. Worried about the bullpen being a bit overworked after this series.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I don't think the Diamondbacks can afford to do this for very long. If Ryne Nelson, Tommy Henry, and Zach Davies are all going to have such short starts consistently, that's a problem. Even with Dre Jameson back there to provide some length, and apparently Joe Mantiply back there to provide some length too. There's still just not enough manpower in that bullpen to weather that storm. One interesting nugget after the game, Torey was asked if he is fully committed to Ryne Nelson making his next start. And he said that it was under discussion, that it was being discussed. He added a caveat that, as they always do, like it's being discussed as it always is, trying to make it sound like that's something they do after every start. Not so sure if I fully buy into that. If you had asked Torey after his start in Detroit, which was pretty effective, are you fully committed to Ryne Nelson making his next start? I doubt he gives the answer, we'll talk about it. He would have absolutely, right? He would have absolutely just gone out and said, of course. He threw 5 2/3 scoreless innings. So I do think that Torey answering that way means probably that the Diamondbacks are considering other options with that rotation spot. Obviously there's 3 starters here who are struggling, not one, but I think if you had to pick one guy at this point that, maybe it makes the most sense to move on from, Ryne Nelson is probably that guy. As far as who they could go to replace Ryne Nelson, it's a little bit complicated. You've got Brandon Pfaadt, of course, down in the minors. He's the primary depth option right now. He pitched really well his last time out, but he wasn't particularly good his 2 starts before that in Reno. I don't know if they're quite ready to go back there. So at that point, you have to wonder if a bullpen game could be on the table for the D-backs, something like what the Phillies did on Monday, where they had Matt Strom come out to start the game, give you a couple of innings, and then piece things together from there. I don't know if that necessarily helps with the lack of arms in the bullpen, though. I mean, it's not really a solution to that problem. So, the D-backs just need those guys to give them more than what they're giving them right now. And in some ways, it feels like the trade deadline can't come soon enough because, that's probably when the D-backs could actually bring in another arm externally. I think that would be pretty hard for them to do right now.
Well, and that was our big question in our first segment today, Jesse, was do the D-backs do anything with their starting pitching rotation between now and the trade deadline? And I'm not necessarily just suggesting that they're going to make a trade. Like, we know they're going to be aggressive, but we've also added, our own caveat of the fact that it's going to be difficult for them to maybe get a high quality caliber starting pitcher. They might go for a reliever. They might go for something else, right? But do you think that at the very least they won't do anything with these guys, like maybe send Ryne Nelson down, maybe call up a Brandon Pfaadt between now and the trade deadline, which is still pretty far away? I mean, we're talking about 45 days away from the trade deadline. Or do you think that they could potentially do something sooner than that, like in the immediate future?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I don't think Ryne Nelson's spot is particularly secure. I think Zach Davies' spot is probably pretty secure. I think Tommy Henry, for better or worse, his spot is probably more secure than
until
Ryne
they could
Nelson's
do something
spot.
about it, right?
Yeah. I don't know if I see the D-backs sending down Ryne Nelson. I mean, he's been up here the whole season. You'd probably, I would think you would maybe try him in the bullpen first.
Okay.
But of course, with Dre Jameson, another thing that stood out after the game today is Torey said the D-backs are beyond the point of being able to convert Dre Jameson back into a starter. So
good.
You could maybe use him as that opener. But he is in the bullpen at this point. And maybe they would be hesitant to do that with Ryne Nelson, given the lack of starting pitching depth that they have right now.
Dre Jameson just has different energy coming out of the bullpen. And we kicked around the idea about him even having kind of closer energy. I'm not saying that that's the best option, considering that he can give them such long relief, right? So, like, I like Dre in the role that he's in now. He seems to be having success there. And again, if you want to criticize Torey Lovullo, you could criticize that he changes people's roles too often, right? And I feel like sometimes some stability in knowing what you're going to play. I'm not saying off days and things like that, but I'm just saying, like, it feels like sometimes when guys are on a roll, Torey goes with like a game plan he has set in place, regardless of what's happening in real time, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of Torey gripes in this series, right? There's Carson Kelly playing the 3 games. There's Corbin Carroll sitting yesterday with both Moreno and Ketel Marte out of the lineup. There's a lot of. It's amazing how one day the entire fan base loves the manager, and then 3 days
we were
later,
talking manager of the year. We were saying shoe in for NL manager of the year, and now we're like, what is going on? What are you doing? And of course, What really happened here is they played a very good Philadelphia Phillies team. I think that's what it comes down to. And you got to give credit where credit is due. What Real Muto did at Chase Field was unbelievable. The guy just couldn't stop hitting the ball. 2 home runs, 2 triples, 2 doubles. Man didn't even see the time for singles, but he stopped and got one anyway on his way to getting a cycle. So, and that was in the loss. It was just, it was a ridiculous series. And I think this guy next to me said it best when he said he's just happy to see the Philadelphia Phillies go away. Just go away.
This is the first time all year I wasn't having fun. I wasn't having fun watching the Diamondbacks in this
series. The Phillies and the Marlins, those 2 series have been the games that they feel, even they played them both twice now, and it was a battle the whole time, and for some reason they just couldn't figure these teams out, and it's frustrating because we've seen the Diamondbacks have so much success. The way they played in this game was more of what we saw throughout last year, and we pin a lot of the losses on the bullpen last year, but to be honest, a lot of it was on days like this where they just weren't very sharp defensively. They weren't doing all of the little things that they do in order to win games. Maybe this team has to be relatively perfect in order to maintain the level of success that they've reached. And maybe that's not sustainable. Maybe that's not possible. But it does feel like, that this team was playing like error-free baseball for quite a while before they ran into the Phillies.
The Phillies are just so much better than a lot of the teams the D-backs have played recently. Even though the Phillies aren't a great team necessarily, I don't necessarily think, as I said yesterday, that they're a lock to make the playoffs or anything in the National League. But there's a huge difference between the Phillies and the Tigers, or the Phillies and the Rockies, or the Phillies and the Nationals.
Correct.
D-backs have had a really easy schedule recently, and they've played like an elite team in those games, right? You can't ask for anything more than to just run over all of those teams. That's what the D-backs did. But even so, there is still this narrative of, can the D-backs win against the Phillies? Can the D-backs win against the better teams around the league? And lately it's been a little shaky. They lost that series to the Braves. They lost 3 out of 4 here to the Phillies. They did win some games early in the season against good teams, right? Taking 3 out of 4 from the Dodgers and whatnot early in the year. But that narrative still...
They have the Rays coming up this month at the end of the month. They have the Brewers coming up. They have some tough teams still left. And it's not like they're going to see another month like they saw in May, where May really was just filled with sub 500 opponents that the Diamondbacks took care of business against. Right now, what we're seeing them do, they're getting to a point, and it just each month progressively gets harder. So maybe it's a good thing. Maybe the Diamondbacks were on such a roll that now they kind of have a chance to reassess what their true weaknesses are, and it's a good time because they talked about being aggressive at the trade deadline. Hopefully they can do some things to improve this team, but you still have to feel fairly confident that the pieces are here already, right? I'm not trying to say this team is a World Series contender the way they're built, but man, with some of the way that some of the guys that are in the minor leagues have been playing and the way that they've produced when they've come up to a major league level, it definitely feels like the Diamondbacks could have the pieces, but I just don't know starting pitching wise where they're going to get some help for Merrill Kelly and Zach Gallen.
I mean, no team is. I mean, you look at a team like the Braves, who a large part of them they are self-built, but no team is completely self-built. Any team that wins championships is eventually going to have to go out and acquire top-level talent.
It's that third level. It's like 3 levels, right? And it's like the Diamondbacks somehow moved through 2 levels pretty fast. We just talked about last year not really knowing who their core was or deciding on who their core was, and now it feels like they have an established core of young talent to build around. And then it's about winning with those guys. And then that last piece is like adding those calling in those reinforcements and making that team a championship caliber team. And honestly, with the way that Mike Hazen is talking all crazy, it feels like this might be if he can, this might be his chance to literally skip through all of those levels over the course of one season, where that usually takes a team longer, to build and figure those parts out. And I mean, last year was a big part of establishing the core for sure, but that Gabriel Moreno trade, bringing him over, really felt like it solidified at least four young guys that they can build around and make this team a winner for not just this year, but for the foreseeable future. I just don't know if they're going to be successful in the trade market at getting those pieces that they need to get them to that next level?
I don't think they really have a choice, especially on the starting pitcher front. I mean, the Diamondbacks need, you can make a case the Diamondbacks need multiple starters, but
Yeah,
getting one starter would make a huge difference. And even, thinking ahead to what a 5-game playoff series would look like, you need more than Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly. You just
Correct.
do. I mean, you're just not even a viable team in a 5-game series right now. You can't run out Tommy Henry and Zach Davies or whatever it is in a game 3 and 4. It just, I don't think that's really a viable option for them. So yeah, Mike Hazen has no choice from my perspective to be aggressive and to maybe try to get these moves done sooner than later, which is a really hard thing to do, especially given the scarcity of pitchers on the market. But the D-backs would benefit a lot from, if they're going to go get a Lucas Giolito or a Marcus Stroman or whoever it is, getting that guy on June 30th is a whole lot better than getting that guy on July 30th. I don't know realistically if that's going to be possible for them, but I think if you're Mike Hazen and the D-backs front office right now, you have to try to be as aggressive as you possibly can.
Well, we know Father's Day is here, Jesse. We know fathers are hard to shop for. I'm hard to shop for. You've professed your dad's hard to shop for. And one thing that you can get your dad, weed and beer. Why not? What's wrong with that? Who says no? Father's Day is coming up. OG's is the perfect gift. You can get a happy balance that'll have them having a great time out at the links, hitting some golf balls. Need an energy boost? You can go with a Sunny Sativa. So much more. They have a wide variety of doses and strains, whatever you need, including give your dad the best night of sleep he's ever had with the Aquaberry Sleep Edition gummy, as well as all sorts of other options. It's seriously never been easier to cross Father's Day shopping off your list. Check out OG's online at ogsbrands.com or on Instagram at ogsbrands. You can also find their products at your local dispensary. Must be 21 years or older to purchase. I purchased my father one time a sugar-free chocolate bar that was medicated, and he was it was like one of the 5 times in life he's been like the most proud of me. I'd never seen such a big smile on his face. But you can also get your dad, of course, 12 packs of 4 Peaks. I mean, again, you think gifting for your dad is hard. It's not. You're just overthinking it. Bring your dad beer and he will just hug you. Any alcohol is great, but 4 Peaks is the best way to go. It's the official craft beer of the Arizona Diamondbacks. So if your dad is a D-backs fan, of course, grab him some Rattle on Red Ale, or take him to a ball game at Chase Field and hop up to the 4 Peaks draft room, located on the suite level down the first base line in deep right, and have a ball. Also, you can get him some tickets to the D-backs takeover and come out with us in July. No matter what, you can hook your dad up with 4 Peaks. You can also hook teachers up with 4 Peaks with their 4 Peaks for Teachers promotion. Every year, 4 Peaks donates school supplies to teachers around the valley. They're also having giving away 11 $1,000 cash grants and a teacher's lounge renovation to one lucky teacher, all provided by 4 Peaks. To thank a teacher, you can go to 4peaksforteachers.org and complete the form to enter for their chance to win. Nominations are due on June 30th. So make sure to do that immediately if you want to thank that teacher. Again, 4peaksforteachers.org to nominate. Check out at 4 Peaks Brew or at 4 Peaks Pub to keep up with the latest at Arizona's hometown brewery. Must be 21 or older to drink 4 Peaks, and please drink responsibly. Jesse, thank you for sticking around because we just wanted to talk about these probables. And again, we're thankful to see a team that isn't the Philadelphia Phillies. So the Cleveland Guardians coming in here, which were a very hot team last year. And we get a chance to potentially see future Arizona Diamondback Shane Bieber and how he will look at Chase Field. But what are your thoughts on these matchups, especially with Galentine's Day being in game 1?
Yeah, that's a good pitching matchup. I think Tristan McKenzie is just coming back from the injured list, at least pretty recently. He's good. Tristan McKenzie is really good. He pitched in the playoffs last year for the Guardians and, looked pretty good there. So that's a pretty good pitching matchup on Friday. Saturday, things are a little lopsided, unfortunately, for the D-backs with Shane Bieber against Tommy Henry, and then Bibby against Davies on in the finale on Sunday is also definitely advantage Guardians. But at the end of the day, the Guardians issue this year, the reason that they have the record that they do is that their offense is just sort of falling apart. Jose Ramirez is not having the year that he normally has. Andres Jimenez has taken a huge step back after becoming one of the best young position players seemingly last year. you're not necessarily getting a break from a pitching standpoint.
Right.
But this is no Bryce Harper, Trey Turner, JT Realmuto, Kyle Schwarber nonsense. The Guardians do not
Some
have
murderer's row of guys, even though Schwarber's still hitting 176. But yes, I think a little bit of relief. But like we said, the Diamondbacks don't have any more stretches where it's as kind to them as it was during May. So this really is the test. And we've said that they've won against teams that they should win against. And they should be able to take this series against the Guardians. Hopefully, instead of being in such a jovial mood after watching Josh Rojas pitch, they got a little bit of a chip on their shoulder after losing 2 games by 1 run to a team that, honestly, they could have beat.
That's why I think you love seeing Zach Gallen being the first pitcher in the series, too, especially after a series like this.
Yeah.
And Zach's recent stretch. Like, both the team and Zach himself have a little bit of getting on track to do. So starting the series with him, hopefully getting everybody back on track, bodes well for not just the rest of the series, but then on.
I like Nicholas's comment too. He says the Athletic has been talking about how Bieber's velocity is pretty down this year. I know Strom could provide a boost to him though. Let's whoop his ass.
Yeah,
and like get his ERA through the roof, lower his value. Maybe we can get him for a steal. Maybe we can get him on the clearance section.
The last thing I remember seeing about Bieber and his like trade value was that people didn't think he would be like an X factor in the playoffs, and so it was going to lower his value. Yeah. So if we want to lower his value a little bit more, get him on the cheap.
Let's go.
He was really good. I think Bieber was really good his last time out. I don't remember who he faced. I think it was a pretty formidable lineup though, and he had a really good outing. So yeah, maybe his value is coming up a little bit, but I also heard the same thing that Shawn just talked about, where I think some anonymous executive made a comment about, like, is Shane Bieber actually a needle mover for a playoff team? Does he actually make you all that much better? And we do know that the Guardians, although they have a history of trading pitchers right before they hit free agency, Bieber is set to hit free agency after next season. They also do not compromise on their price very much. They like to really set the bar high. And I mean, they've gotten it in the past. They traded Mike Clevenger. They traded Trevor Bauer. They have had some success doing that, but I'm not sure Shane Bieber is perceived around the league quite the same way that those guys are.
Yeah, Bieber's last start was 7 innings pitched, 3 hits, 0 earned runs, 9 strikeouts against the Houston Astros.
Oh,
pretty good baseball team.
Wow.
He had one hell of an outing in his last outing. So hopefully he's coming in with a little bit too much confidence.
I like that.
Knock him off his pedestal.
I like that. Well, hopefully we see the young guys rebound, because if they don't, things don't look great for this Diamondbacks team. But it does look great when you take a look at the All-City division standings, because we still got that double-digit lead, baby. Diamondbacks up 10 games in the division to the next closest team, and then everybody else is just way back there in our rearview mirror. I saw the Cubs trying to formulate some plan to get to first in their division, and then I looked it up, and they are actually, with a 30-37 record, not that far back from first place.
Yeah, because the Central Division in both conferences or both leagues is a joke.
I also have something pretty interesting about this. I went at the league-wide standings and looked at it, and the Cubs, White Sox, and Rockies are all in order right next to each other, towards like in the bottom like 5 to 10 of the whole league, and they're all directly next to each other in standings.
Hilarious.
Cubs at 30-37 are 4.5 games back in the division, yet they're in fourth place.
Rockies currently getting just smoked by the Braves 5-1 after 2.
Yeah, that's about to be 13 games back. Yeah. Sorry, Patrick. Sorry,
the White Sox got the Dodgers tonight. They got the Dodgers series, or the Dodgers tonight. The White Sox might be the most frustrating franchise in baseball right now.
Yeah,
I don't feel bad for them, but I can kind of empathize with our people over at CHGO White Sox.
Yeah, that's not easy. And I said sorry to Suze, but I take it back because she's a Phillies fan. So
yeah, she is a Phillies fan.
No, sorry for you, Susie Hunter. Jesse, thank you so much for joining us, and of course, make sure to drink plenty of water and get home safe. Text me the minute you're home, just so I know you're okay.
Text us.
Text both of us. Yeah, we need both of us to get that chat now. Not just me now. There's 2 of us that care about you.
I'm pretty sure that since I came, during the watch along, I'm pretty sure that I got like the last available parking spot in the Chase Field garage. So I'm at like the open part of the garage.
Oh, gross! Your car's gonna be so hot when you get in your Super 4.
I know it's not going to be great, but life is always pretty good in the SIC Route 4, no matter how hard it is.
That is true.
So,
it's pretty great when you cover the first place team of the National League West too, buddy. All right, thank you again, Jesse.
Thanks, guys.
All right, well, that's what we got. More furniture. Jesse's got to go get the Chase Lounges. He's got that whole endorsement deal with More Furniture. But if you want something other than a Chase Lounge, make sure to check out More Furniture. They have lots of other furniture to offer. I promise you. I know we just dwell on the Chase Lounges, but this table in front of us came from More Furniture. It's very sick. The more I do shows in this studio, because we used to be in B all the time. Now we moved up. Shawn got here. We get up to Studio A. Now we're big time. But we're sitting in the big seats and the big furniture, and I'm enjoying it. These almost feel like thrones compared.
Yeah,
to,
it's funny
to the chairs we were sitting
on Cardinal or Coyotes earlier today. Petey was complaining about how since Craig's been gone, they've been demoted to the two-person studio. And
meanwhile, you're
his
over here
back's
living
been
the
sore,
life.
and he doesn't get to sit in these chairs. And he's like, he literally had to go because we have some other chairs over there, and he had to go switch it out for a More Furniture chair so we could be comfy.
He does. That's how good their furniture is. And they also deliver to you with their white glove delivery service. So don't lift a finger. Just tell them where it goes. They'll even rearrange other furniture for you, I guess. It's craziness. But check out our friends at More Furniture. Save big on the best furniture in the Valley when you head to morefurniture.com. Another great Father's Day gift, by the way. More Furniture. Get your dad a recliner. He will love you forever.
That is, yeah.
That's
I feel like that gift. Is you think about like dad things, they need a good recliner.
Man, if they got like a recliner with a giant bow on it, could you imagine the tear in the eye?
That's gonna put your little siblings' tie that they got him for to shame.
Just to shame, absolutely. But you can also check out FOCO for our Father's Day gifts. They're the leading manufacturer of sports and entertainment merchandise with a product line that includes wonderful, wonderful stuff, including apparel, accessories, toys, collectibles, bobbleheads. Let's talk about the bobbleheads. The bobbleheads are incredible. You see some of them down there.
Yeah, we left all of our merch for the set in the other studio.
Our merch is in Studio B, and then you got Bo in there just doing the Cardinals thing, keeping us from, literally gatekeeping us from our FOCO stuff. So upset. We had to do our best to come up with some set dressings today, but that little tiny Ketel Marte with the king snake around his shoulders would have been so fitting for today, considering he was our king snake. And of course, you can get wonderful bobbleheads like that and so much more over at FOCO.com. FOCO always has our back for Arizona sports. When some of those other collectible companies don't. And they have yours too. Get the best gear around by visiting FOCO.com and using code PHNX. For all non-presale items, use the code PHNX and you will get 10% off today.
Before we get out of here, I feel like we got to see the King Snake graphic because we didn't get a chance to earlier.
Let's see it. Throw it up there. We don't have the bobblehead up there, but there
Ketel,
he is.
Yeah,
2 for 4, 1 dinger, 3 RBI. It looks like he's looking at the King Snake.
Yeah, he is.
It looks like he's looking at your graphic going, damn, Shawn, that is a clean graphic.
Whenever we have a King Snake, I always try to find where they're looking up.
At the King Snake. Damn, look at that. I got King Snake?
Hell yeah, baby.
Like, look at how excited he is. Man, great stuff. But I am actually getting out of here. I am leaving on a jet plane. I don't know when I'll be back again, but in the meantime, these guys are going to hold it down for me tomorrow.
I'm sorry, on a jet plane?
A jet plane? Are you going on a PJ?
I am going to Chicago and then Minneapolis over the course of a weekend in a very short amount of time. How I get there and what I'll be doing there is none of your guys' business.
The thing is we knew you were leaving, but no one knew you were on a PJ
part. They got friends on high places over here.
Look, I'm just saying.
PJ drama, call it PJ pajamas.
We have moves to make this weekend, and yeah, I know it's Father's Day, but that's what Father's Day means. I can do what I want, right?
Yeah.
That's what it means. I don't have to spend it with my family. I mean, whatever. We'll FaceTime. I feel bad, so I'm trying to just make jokes about it.
That's crazy.
I will be back on
Didn't
Monday.
invite us on the PJ either.
No, there's not room in the limo from the Circa, and there's not room on the PJ.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a tight fit. There's a lot of guys in there.
I'll pay. Ground transportation, I'm fine as long as you can get me the seat on the PJ. I'll figure everything else out.
Well, make sure to join these guys tomorrow. We're doing a post. They're doing a post show after that first game with the Guardian series, and then we will be back on Monday for our normal Mailbag Monday episode, which I think we're doing. It's 1 o'clock still, right? Yeah. We got a lot of post games next week, so you guys should be excited about that schedule once we get that up. I think the 1 o'clock show on Monday is the only 1 p.m. show. I think everything else next week is doing post game stuff. So make sure to join us for that. In the meantime, you can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Cap_Caveman with a K. This guy next to me is at Shawn_DePaz. Jesse is at Jesse and Friedman. That madman behind the Mac is the one and only Damon. You can follow him at Damon Dog. That's DAWG with a little more at the end. But of course, our show is at PHNX_Dbacks, and all roads lead to at PHNX_sports on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We thank you again for joining us, and we hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. I do, because I'm starting mine early, but we appreciate you guys stopping by. And remember, kids, baseball is fun, but it's so much more fun when you spend Father's Day with your actual family.